We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday, and we have Jay from California, who's soon to be headed to Canada to go to college. He's been on the show before, and we're always lucky to have him back. Jay, welcome back. And I know I can see by the look on your face you're a little annoyed today.
Boy, am I, Mike. Boy, am I. Elbows up once again, people.
Uh,
Better put those elbows up. Um, where to even begin? Um, let's just start with what we briefly touched on before the cameras went on
yeah,
about.
let's start with the good news. Let's start with the good
Okay,
news. Kind of the good news. No doubt people have heard by now, and I'm looking for your reaction too because I didn't think this would happen, to be perfectly honest. Prior to recording this podcast, there was a report that came out from a lot of folks um, that said Senator Van Hollins from Maryland, who went to El Salvador yesterday, said he was refused the opportunity to meet with Kilmar Abrega Garcia. So we didn't know if he was alive, and we had to wonder if, in fact, he was alive. Otherwise, they'd let him see him. I suggested that Donald Trump's getting enough heat about the prospect of this poor man might be dead that they should want him to be seen by Senator Van Hollins. Well, that didn't happen yesterday, but just a short time ago, we got an announcement from Senator Van Hollins that he did meet Garcia, and
he's
Garcia is
alive.
alive. Now he hasn't said given any specifics. I have a feeling he may not make an official announcement until he talks to his wife, and maybe not until he comes back to the states. But at least that's a relief to know that Garcia is alive.
Yeah, that's a relief, I'm sure, to his family and to all of us as well. Um, I why did why is it so hard for you guys to admit that you fucked up in sending him there in the first place? I,
Well, I think the fact that he's alive. First I thought, well, if he isn't alive, that's a problem, and that's why.
oh
I
yeah,
think the
fucking
other
thanks.
thing, yeah, the other thing is now that we know he's alive, two things. Donald Trump can't afford to ever admit he's wrong. He will never ever admit he's
No.
wrong. He's still being sued by the Central Park Five 50 years later for what he did to them. But at the same time, the president of El Salvador and Donald Trump, for that matter, can't afford to have this guy come back and speak to the press about his treatment because no doubt it wasn't the best. Um, I, I don't know if they'll be able to bring this guy home. I certainly hope they do. But through this whole process, even though he may be alive right now, that doesn't answer the fact of how you can take somebody off the street innocent and send them to an El Salvadoran prison without due process. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. The crime was committed by Donald Trump. The crime against the Constitution was committed by Donald Trump. Um,
It's a
it's
fucking
it's
crime against
it's
humanity.
Really, I mean, it's amazing how brazen Donald Trump has gotten with his attacks on things. He doesn't care about what people think.
No, it doesn't. Part of it is he's demented and insane because
Yeah.
I mean we all know this. He has severe dementia or late stage syphilis is another suggestion. Either way, the man is completely out of his fucking mind. Is for one thing.
Yeah.
For another, he gets off on it because he's a sick, sadistic abuser who gets pleasure out of abusing people.
I tend to
And
agree.
number three, he just literally hates everyone that isn't him. So there's that.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. It's going to be interesting to see how this story plays out. It would be crazy if Van Hollins is just making a surprise where he's going to bring this guy back with him. I mean, that'd be the way to do it. Why not? You don't the president of El Salvador says, "Well, we can't release him and smuggle him into the country." No, just put him on a senator's plane. Then he's not your problem anymore.
Yeah, you would think though. This it gets worse though in this area. Another one of these guys who was, disappeared by the MAGA Gestapo and shipped off to El Salvador. It was done because he had a tattoo on,
Yeah.
a tattoo of a circular-ish ribbon in rainbow coloring with a puzzle piece motif.
Wow.
That's an autism awareness tattoo.
Right.
I've had trouble sleeping for the past couple of days because I saw that story and I went, "Holy shit, I'm next. Holy shit,
Well,
we're all next."
that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, clearly, what Donald Trump doesn't like is anybody that's different from him. We're talking about transgender folks. We're talking about people of color, different religions, and as an autistic person, you would certainly be considered different, at least in his mindset. Uh, as somebody who's in a I don't know what I would say. I don't know that I'd say marginalized, but you're in a minority, and not everybody treats you favorably. And when the president of the United States decides not to treat you favorably, that does have to make you and some of your peers nervous.
Yeah, I went and explained this to my three lovely teachers at the Santa Rosa Junior College, of the people that I take classes from, because my work performance did suffer a lot after this came out, because I spent a whole lot of time going, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to prepare an exit plan." I went and I explained this to them, and they believed me. And
Oh, good.
this is, yeah, and now to I think the reason that they bought this explanation, which is bonkers, by the way, that my class performance is suffering, like I'm missing deadlines because I think the government's out to get me. I think they believe me simply because they know I'm not a stupid person, and that I wouldn't use this excuse unless I actually felt this way. Because if I tried this in any of my previous classes, they'd laugh me out of the room. That's too unbelievable. The government coming after you for being autistic, it's ridiculous. Who would buy that? It's fucking happening, apparently.
Well, exactly. And we should just clarify when you say they bought it, that's not to suggest that you were lying. You were being very
No,
serious about
no. I
this.
mean, I meant they took it seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as an old white man sitting in his living room, I can't understand the plight of autistic folks, transgender folks, even people of color. I can empathize and I can do what I can to help fight against it. But unless you really experience it, no one can say, oh, it's not that bad, or, oh, you shouldn't worry about that stuff. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
motherfuckers that weren't worried about it that are sent out of this country.
yeah. Well, I was talking about this in I think YouTube comments on one video. I was like, I was chatting with because it was a video about Canadian people reacting to the situation in the U.S. and a lot of people who are minorities are saying, "Is there anything we can do? What are you going to do?" Now, some of the responses were, "Sorry, we can't help you. No, no, no help for you." But a lot more responses went, "If you want to come up here, we'll take you. We'll do what we can to help you out." And I was like, making plans to do this now. I'm just setting my affairs in order. And some moron replied, going, "Well, I've seen you on the podcast. You're a straight white guy who's also Christian. Why do you care?" Well, that guy didn't have a fun time. Um, uh, but but the point is, okay, another person that I talked to actually had a good point about this. All this stuff that's going on, all the DEI bullshit, which I'll come back to that in a second, and the people being targeted, immigrants being targeted, people from other countries and everything, LGBTQ plus people, well, I just said trans. That's part of what I just said. Autistic people, divergent people, all the things targeting all this. One of my friends described this with some really really chilling language: intent to destroy, and
Yeah.
intent to destroy. Intent to destroy is language that's used when there is a underway an attempt or a full blown whatever of genocide is what that is.
Yeah. Well, and I think what do they call it? Eugenics? Is that it? Or
Yeah,
something where certain people want to purge our country of people who are different, whether it be
yeah,
autistic or mentally handicapped. And that's the one thing I want to clarify too, because I was thinking about you today when I was watching RFK Jr., this absolute dumbass,
Oh
going
my
up there and
god.
talking about autistic people and saying, these people can't work, they can't go to school, they can't play baseball, they can't even use the bathroom. I'm going, what the fuck are you talking about? I know many autistic people. I have autistic people in my family. Some of them, all of them are much smarter than I am in certain areas, and I guess you know that's that's what happens when somebody has a neurodivergent mentality. But tell me what you thought when you heard what RFK Jr. said, and then let's get a clarification between um, an autistic person and somebody who's mentally disabled, because there's a distinct difference, much different.
Oh yeah. Do not fuck up that distinction because you'll get in huge trouble for it. Okay, first off, with the RFK thing, like I said before the show, I'm really thankful I only have one phone like Will because I nearly chucked that thing across the room.
Yeah.
I fucking saw red. I was ready to murder the first person who walked into the room. Now, thankfully, the first person who walked into the room was our family friend Nick, who's staying with us. So that didn't go anywhere. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm so mad I can't even think straight. All I can say is when they get the guillotines out, because I think we're coming up on that. When they get the guillotines out, put that fucker in first. I don't care if
Yeah.
I don't care if Howard Lutnick said that let them eat cake thing or the orange turd and a half is doing all this stuff. Put RFK Jr. in that fucking guillotine first. I need to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people need to see that at this point. Uh, it's uh, it's disturbing to say the least. And clearly, our director of the Department of Health and Human Services has no clue about anything having to do with autism. I mean, he's talking about, well, it's got to be in the environment and we're going to clean it up and it won't happen anymore. Um, all this is silly and it comes from nowhere, and he has no basis for saying these things. He's just doing what Donald Trump does and spewing bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And what really pissed me off even more was when he reused that age age old talking point slash whatever to bash on the autistic community as quote unquote a disease and an epidemic. You know what's a disease and an epidemic? The fucking brain worms in your head, buddy, and everyone else in your fucking MAGA community as well. You're all brain worm troglodytes. There's your
Yeah,
fucking epidemic.
yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, it's funny about RFK Jr. He was known to say, "We're going to make America healthy again."
Good. You can
And
start
then,
by leaving.
yeah, that would be a good choice. But then they commenced to firing 27 of the scientists within the organization, all the scientists
Yeah.
in the organization.
You
They're
know,
going to cut the budget by billions of dollars by a third. They basically shut down a program that helped maintain people with HIV to stay alive. 20 million people that are dealing with this and to count on the drugs. They shut that fucking off. I don't think his intent is to make America healthy again.
no, his goal, I think, you can kind of wonder if this is his own twisted thing or if, you know, Orange is making him do this. He's literally hoping all these people die
Yeah,
because he's the worst form of a social Darwinist, which is like Will called it in the TikTok lives.
yeah, yeah,
He's an and they all are. And all I have to say is go back to Germany if that's your attitude.
yeah, absolutely. What's ironic with RFK Jr. saying this about people with autism, isn't Elon Musk supposed to be autistic to a certain extent? Do you believe that's true, or is he just goofy as fuck?
Well, like I've said multiple times on the show before, we don't claim Elon. He ain't autistic. He's Auschwitztic.
Yeah,
Me in my in my
yeah,
in my personal opinion, he's a fucking weirdo nerd who's hooked on every drug in the book basically, and just brains melting out of his ears. But even if he is autistic, he's one of those. You can be autistic and be a relatively normal person, like say me or even Trevor, Or you
Yeah.
can be an autistic person and you can also be just a complete fucking psychopath, which is what Elon Musk is.
Yeah. Well, don't you think there are people who aren't artistic that are just socially awkward? Maybe because of the way they
There's
brought
that,
up,
yeah.
because they've been sheltered and they haven't done anything in their life because they've been rich all their life. Then you throw in some excessive use of ketamine, that could fuck a guy up.
Yeah. Or if you're a certain owner of a certain owner of a very popular social media company, Mark Zuckerberg,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
you you're socially awkward because you're an alien wearing a skin suit pretending to be a human. But hey, that's just
yeah,
me. That's just my opinion.
yeah. Mark Zuckerberg was thought to have Asperger's, or maybe that's what. Let me ask you this. I think a lot of people say the word autism or Asperger's, which isn't even a term that's used anymore, as I understand it. Tell me what autism is. Just explain it like I'm an idiot, because I'm an idiot regarding this anyway. Explain to me what autism is so people finally understand what we're talking about here. Some people think it's a brain deficiency, and based on the people with autism that I've met, that's not the case. It's just a difference. It's not deficient.
Yeah, I would put it this way. Okay, if you want to explain how autism works, I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm not an expert, but if I had to describe it, imagine your brain as one giant circuit board with a whole
Right.
bunch of, or like a fuse box with a whole bunch of different cables and stuff going to all different places. In the average, in what we'd call a neurotypical person, I've also heard it referred to as aulistic, is someone who's you know neurotypical, has all the cables running to the right spots, running to the standard standard brain blueprint, if you will. An autistic person, especially somebody with ADHD as well, which I'm getting that looked into. Some wires are smaller in some areas, but they're bigger in other areas. Like the
Okay.
wiring's still there. It's just different. It's differently proportioned. So somebody might be not as good as at some things, but better at others. That's why a lot of autistic people end up being really, really smart, because
Right.
they have to compensate for their enhanced thing in one area for maybe a bit of a deficit in another. But that doesn't mean
Right.
they're any less worthy of being helped and whatever else.
Now, the term Asperger's, um, is that a form of autism? I know they don't use that term anymore. I understand that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people use it. A lot of people have heard it. What what's the difference between autism and a disease like, and I don't even know if I want to call it a disease, a difference in terms of Asperger's.
Well, Asperger's, if you want an example of what Asperger's is, well, you're looking at one, because
Okay,
Asperger's is basically what they used to use to refer to high functioning autistic people, which is I'm one.
I got you.
Yeah,
I
the
got you.
reason they dropped the terminology is because the guy that it was coined after was discovered to be an So that, yeah, that didn't go well.
Wow, wow. As somebody with, oh well, you mentioned autism. Somebody with a high functioning autism. Um, there are different levels of autism.
Yeah,
The
they are. It's a whole spectrum. There's verbal and nonverbal. There's high energy, low energy. There's all different variants that I can't name off the top of my head. But yeah, it is. Some people are even calling it not even necessarily a spectrum, but more like a wheel, like a
okay.
color wheel. You can move the thing around, and you'll find a different thing wherever you go. I don't know a lot of top off the top of my head though.
Well, when you say some are verbal, nonverbal, are there any people that are autistic that fall into the description that RFK Jr. said, as far as just being non-functioning at all?
Um, I would say there's a very few that are that way, but
Okay.
they're very much a minority within the minority. Those people more often have some kind of other mental condition as well as
Right.
whatever autism they might have. So again, lowering the chances. The problem is RFK Jr. was raised in a time where anyone who had autism was seen as unclean and diseased.
Well,
He
didn't John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy Sr.'s family have a mentally disabled daughter and sister that they kind of stored away someplace, gave her a lobotomy for that matter. I mean, this
Yeah.
was a long time ago, but that's how that family dealt with somebody with a mental disability.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why when I saw, okay, at the end of last year, before I started coming on the show, I was in a film appreciation class and we saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Again, nerd. So,
Yeah.
um, and that movie fucked me up for a lot of reasons. For one thing, it has one of the most brilliant evil doctor or nurse portrayals in horror history ever. And for another, there's a the main character gets lobotomized towards the end. Sorry, spoilers, but that movie messed me up really badly because that could have been me a couple
Okay.
decades ago. If I had been living a couple decades ago and people discovered I was autistic, first thing that would have happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Let me ask you one other thing. I've heard people say this. I think my wife has even said it. Um, Everybody's on the spectrum, just at different points. Do you believe that's true?
Possibly, I would have to see a bit more correlation or evidence or whatever it is of that, but possibly. I
Okay.
I I I'd kind of have to line up the spectrum and those who are on it versus not off it up to kind of parse out what the differences are and see maybe if there's anything to that. But if we're talking off the top of my head, I have no fucking idea.
Well, that's a fair answer. I do know this that Trumplafucks are pretty solidly on the stupid spectrum, if there was such a one. As far as I'm concerned, there is one, and if
Oh,
you go by
hey,
Donald Trump, all you have to do is say it.
don't call Trumplafucks stupid because that's an insult to stupid people.
Yeah,
Trumplafucks are fucking brainless. They have
yeah.
no brain to be stupid with because to be stupid you have to have a brain to be stupid with.
I want to ask you too about this attack on colleges by Donald Trump,
Oh
and you're
Jesus
the right one
Christ!
to answer because you're going to be going to college in Canada, no less. But he's gone after Columbia. He's now going after Harvard, and
Oh, you
basically
want to
what he
go there,
wants to
buddy?
do. That's what I'm saying. You get in there and you want to
You're not going to win
control
that
it and
fight.
get rid of DI. God, if I was going to pick a college, it wouldn't be Harvard. Think of all the thousands and thousands of people who are alumnus of Harvard who've gone on to be successful, powerful, wealthy. Do you really want a dumbass coming in and fucking in your alma mater, fucking up your alma mater? I got to think there's going to be some pushback from the alumni.
There already is. There already
Is there?
is a lot. Yeah. Speaking of the DEI thing, I was going around and I think it was like the TikToks because I was trying to I'm still trying to figure out how to get in on those fucking lives because I've been looking and looking and looking and every time I either miss the notification or I go on there and there's nothing and I can't figure it out. But that's a thing for later. The point is, I was in these TikToks really, and I was calling out some Trumplafuck, and some other Trumplafuck comes in and tries to get on me, and he says, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're just a DEI blank," and blank here is replaced by an absolutely disgusting slur for disabled people that I absolutely will not repeat here.
Oh, I thought he was going to say DEI fuck, but it was a slur.
Yeah, and no, it wasn't the R word. Somehow it was worse. It was somehow worse than that, and I'm like, I'm surprised you have enough brains to know that fucking word.
Yeah.
That was
Wow.
part of it. Obviously I was, obviously I'm a little fucking offended, but more so than
Yeah.
anything, to quote Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, again, nerd.
Yeah.
My thought process was, wow, you are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
There's a lot of sad, strange little people on that side of the coin. But basically, what he wants to do is he wants to do what he's trying to do with countries all over the world, saying, I'm the toughest guy, I'm the strongest guy. You do exactly what I want, or I'm going to take away your money. Whether he has that legal right or not, who the fuck knows? Well, we do know he doesn't have that right, but that doesn't mean he can't fuck around with it and cause some disruptions and some problems and such. I don't know if you heard. TJ sent me a link to a TikTok, and apparently I'm in Minnesota, so the colleges in Minnesota or the University of Minnesota is part of the Big Ten. Ironically, there's probably 23 or 24 fucking schools in the Big Ten now. UCLA, Michigan, you know, Ohio State. But what they've decided to do is all come together and create kind of like a collegiate NATO. If Donald Trump comes after
Ooh.
one of them, they're all going to put their resources in behind them to fight back. So that's interesting. And I think that's the right move for anybody that's looking at the possibility of being attacked by Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, what are the MAGA fucks gonna come up with as a counter to that? The War Shark Pact? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Oh,
you see what's going on, and he really seems to me, knowing what I know about narcissist, he really seems to be at that stage where he's kind of in the spiral coming down.
well,
They
he's already in the
always,
spiral. Yeah.
and he's going to crash because he's making too many mistakes. I mean, he's getting pushed back at every turn. The thing with Garcia, not only did they at least find out he's still alive, but he appealed to a judge, and the judge basically said, "You're full of shit. You're wrong. You're not telling the truth." Honest to God, I watched Stephen Smith. Was it Stephen Smith? The
Stevens.
fucking the cretin that advises Donald Trump.
Oh, Stephen
Steve
Miller.
Miller.
Yeah, that Nazi
Yeah,
fuck.
they were talking about the Supreme Court's decision. This motherfucker was sitting on TV going, "Well, it's pretty clear we won that case. They said this, they said that. It was 9-0. We won." I mean, this was gaslighting 10 fucking one. And
Yeah,
and and this is what they do.
yeah, bitch. Do you think we're stupid? We have the fucking receipts. We saw what the decision was. They told you fucking no. Two plus
Yeah.
two don't equal five, but brother, a pickle ain't a cucumber.
How do you
No
th-
doesn't
how,
mean yes.
how do you think the Supreme Court is thinking when they deliver a message or a decision, which was actually a weak kind of pussy ass way to do it, but they made the decision, and now Donald Trump is saying, "Thanks, we won." I got to think the Supreme Court's not happy about this because he's basically usurping everything the Supreme Court stands for.
Well, I don't know what to tell you guys because you fuckers created the situation in the first place.
Well,
You did
exactly.
this.
Yeah.
I I tend to agree with Will in that I think they really thought he wouldn't become president again, and that they were just throwing him a solid to keep him out of jail. Well, I mean, Alito and Thomas, I think they did what they did because they were hoping this would happen. They were hoping that he would get back in and he would grease their palms and well, Alito at least is part of Opus Dei, which is the very 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 fascist Christian nationalist organization that's behind a lot of what's going on right now. So there's that. But if he ruled against the orange, shart in a box, then who knows?
Yeah, it's a little hard to vote against the Constitution, and the Constitution is very clear. Everybody gets due process. I saw somebody on TikTok say, "Well, he didn't get due process because he's not an American citizen." Sorry, that's not a good answer. That's not what the Constitution says. It says everybody gets due process. And if you want to split hairs on the Constitution, let's talk about the way you use the First Amendment. So fuck you. If it doesn't say it exactly, it doesn't mean it. So they're going to try everything, and they're really kind of flailing around now because they keep losing. They keep getting exposed for being stupid.
They do. To talk about the is it the ruling? Um, the thing of the I forgot part of what I was going to say. Anyway, the people. The good news is for people that are afraid of the Insurrection Act, martial law, whatever. People are starting to wake up.
Yeah.
You don't have independent media growing like it is, the fight the oligarchy tour pulling the numbers that they are, even in very red areas, or the hands-off protests getting the numbers that they are, because they were expecting like 5,000 people for one of their events. They got 20,000.
Yeah.
and it multiplied even beyond that in many other areas. The tidal wave is building, and these guys can't stop it. They're trying to stop it. That's what a lot of the seizing people and trying to deport them without due process. You can't stop it, guys. The
No.
revolution's coming for you. You can't stop it.
And on Saturday, they're going to have another protest a la April 5th, where it'll be countrywide,
It's going to be
US
even
wide.
more. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot bigger. Our own old soul is queuing up to be in a protest. I give
yeah.
her credit, man.
God bless old
She,
soul.
she puts her boots on the ground and she puts in the work. I give her a lot of credit, and she puts herself at risk too because she's a woman and she happens to be black. Uh, she says there are some Republicans or Trumplafucks that show up at these things, but they don't stay very long. Because when you got 20 people and somebody else has got 20,000 people, you got to be pretty stupid to stand there and start spouting Trump shit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I remember what I was going to say before. It was on the narcissist thing. I kind of was making weird faces earlier, so my apologies for that. And the reason I was doing that was I was gearing up to say this. You mentioned your father being a narcissist. Obviously, Donald
Mhm.
Trump is a narcissist.
Yeah.
Their whole mentality is it's not that they don't want to admit they're wrong, even necessarily. It is that they literally physically can't.
Oh, I
And the
agree.
re- and the reason that I say that is because we're a narcissist to admit they're wrong. If they were to do that, they would literally suffer a microscopic brain bleed, like a tiny little bit of brain damage.
Yeah, I've experienced that with my father. When I understood that he would never say he was wrong, but I was older and bigger, and he couldn't intimidate me. I'd literally or figuratively corner him and say, "But you said this." Now, typically, what they will try to do is try to divert, distract, do whatever they can, delay. Um, but when you corner them like that, there's two things they do. Two things they do. They lose their shit, they lose their temper, and then they run away. That's what happens when a narcissist gets cornered and he can't get out of it. And Donald Trump will have that day at some point down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. I'm sorry I did the weird face. I did the weird face thing again. The reason I did was because I thought about yeah. I was like trying to come to terms with it. Yeah, every time a narcissist has to admit they're wrong, they have this mini stroke, and of course, got to thinking about mini stroke in conjunction with Donald Trump, and I couldn't help but so
Well, don't worry about the weird faces from time to time because I have this weird face all day, every day. I've learned to live with it, and it's
that's a
fine.
good one.
It's fine. You don't have to worry about what. That's the important thing here, Jay. Is if you can learn not to care what other people think, just throw it out there and let it be what it be. Some people will like you, some people won't like you. You talked about this guy calling you a name. Um, Frankly,
I
I
don't
get
think
called
we care.
names. I get called names every day, and I don't fucking care. I think it's kind of funny that you're that weak that that's the best you can come at me with.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised the guy I even knew what the word was because he didn't spell it right, but I knew which one it was.
Of course, he didn't spell it right,
No,
mother. These are the motherfuckers that go to school, and the teacher says, "Look, if you just put your name in the upper right hand corner, you're getting a C," and he still gets a fucking D because he doesn't listen and he's not capable. There's something else going around. Donald Trump is going after Jerome Powell, who is the head of the Federal Reserve.
oh yeah,
Federal.
yeah.
He's been asking him to resign for some time, even before the election. And the thing is, the reason is he feels like Jerome Powell isn't bringing the interest rate down quick enough. Now, the only reason why he would want the interest rate down is two things. It would save him money, and it will make him look good to the people who already know he's a piece of shit. He's trying to get some play out of this. So
Yep, just
he's talking about Jerome Powell, and he's saying, I can't wait till he gets terminated. Now, before the election, or right after the election, Somebody asked Jerome Powell that if Donald Trump told you to leave, would you leave? And he specifically said no. And then somebody said, can he make you leave? And he said no. And he's absolutely right. Donald Trump cannot fire Jerome Powell. He has a term of 4 years, and this 4 year term goes through 2026. So he's probably got another year, year and a half left to be the Fed. Donald Trump was, somebody said to Donald Trump, well, you can't fire him. And he says to me, he says, well, if I want him to go, he'll be gone quickly. This is Donald Trump trying to be the tough guy. Sorry, Donnie, there's no way for you to fire him. And the problem is, if you do fire him, you think this last economic crash was bad? Holy fuck, it will be disastrous.
Yeah, you fire that guy, you try to do what you want to do, your head's going to be up on a stake in front of the White House lawn within weeks.
Yeah.
Like that's not even me. I'm not even like making threats, encouraging people to do stuff. I'm not like threatening or suggesting. I'm telling. This is something that's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Well, I think the whole level of potential violence is already there with all the things that he's doing and continues to do. The one thing I will say about this Jerome Powell thing, I don't know that we're going to see him try to fire him. Because what I'm getting out of this, from what I see with him going after Jerome Powell and knowing what I know about narcissists and dumb motherfuckers like Donald Trump, it seems to me Donald Trump is recognizing the fact that the economy is going to shit. And he is the only one to blame for the economy at this point. I don't care what he says. He's the only one to blame. So he's doing what a narcissist does. He's trying to come up with a scapegoat. He's trying to come up with a distraction or a diversion. He's going to start pounding on Jerome Powell so Jerome Powell, in his mind, can take the heat for the bad economy. I know it sounds fucking ridiculous, but we're talking about Donald Trump here.
For the love of God, Mike, please do not put Donald Trump and pounding in the same sentence ever again. I do not need that shit in my brain. Thank you.
Okay. I
Um,
I have to be careful when I have a guest that's autistic because I can say some shit that will be like a worm in RFK Jr.'s head.
yeah. I mean, at least we'll have some brain left over afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Um, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And the thing is, like I said before, people are waking up because I saw Chuck Grassley's town hall meeting. I watched that shit, and there are a bunch of people asking him, "Why aren't you doing your job? Why aren't you doing your job? Why aren't you standing up to this guy?" And the guy sitting in the front row with a MAGA hat on straight up confronts Chuck Grassley to his face,
Right.
saying to his face and says, the Constitution guarantees everyone the right to due process. This if this guy was seized and sent to El Salvador without giving him due process, that's against the Constitution. Please explain to me why this is not a bigger deal to you. And and Chuck Grassley couldn't respond, obviously, because the only due process he understands is the function of his bowels every morning
Right. Right. Well,
into his
if
shorts.
if it was anybody but Grassley, I'd probably feel sorry for the guy because he was getting absolutely destroyed. And I want to see if you'd agree with me. There are at least three people in that audience that could be charged with elder abuse after that fucking thing because they tore his shit up.
Yeah, they did. Same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Old Soul was talking about last night.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people who called her ass out and the huge amount, like her entire district out protesting her office. I tend to agree with Old Soul. Come the midterms or what next election, whatever, empty Marjorie Toilet Green is getting flushed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people in the midterms are going to get flushed. And it sounds like the Republicans are finally waking up and realizing that. They're going, holy shit, this
Yeah,
could affect us in the midterms. We're getting closer to the midterms. That's why we've got 12 people in the House of Representatives, Republicans saying, yeah, I don't think I'm going to sign on to cutting Medicaid. That's probably not a good idea. Oh, yeah, no shit.
yeah. Another thing that should give those of you out there hope is I believe it was somewhere in a red state. I think it might have been Idaho, where ICE came into a town. This is a red town. This is very much a Republican town, and they tried to arrest a single mom and her 3 little kids, and try and deport them. And the entire
Oh,
town went out, looked the ICE people in the face, and said, "Get out, go." And they went, and
yeah.
and the literally the entire town came out and told ICE to their face, "Get the fuck out. We don't want you here." And that's the thing. People are waking up. They're realizing, holy shit, this is terrible. The momentum ain't slowing down. I don't care what anyone says. Will has said this on the podcast before. These are the most incompetent fucking fascists I have ever seen in my life. You may be trying to erase everyone who's different, but holy fuck, are you fucking bad at it?
Well, you brought up Will, and Will texted me earlier today. He said, this is what he says. What's your schedule tonight? I'm a bit amped up. Oh, no shit. Will, you're amped up? I said, well, it's tight tonight, but we can do it tomorrow, which we will do tomorrow. We'll talk to Will tomorrow.
Should have done the two of
Eh,
us together.
Well, I thought about that, but I don't know if either one of us would get a chance to talk. He was pretty amped up. This is what he wrote me. This is why he's amped up. Now he's in Georgia. Okay,
Oh shit.
I just came back from Georgia. He says tomorrow is good. They are doing ICE raids on Gwinnett County. The county sheriffs are doing no-knock warrants, tossing smoke grenades into homes and dragging out families. Reports that ICE is stalking Latinos and detaining citizens. It's fucking bad, Mike. And he said they have arrested citizens and then created a warrant after the arrest. Now, he happens
Wow.
to be
Wow.
a Latino, so needless to say, I mean, he was born in America, so he's not an immigrant by any sense of the imagination, and his background is Puerto Rican. So it's not like he can be sent. We're going to send him to Puerto Rico. I'll go to fucking Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's fucking beautiful, but he's pretty amped up, and that's pretty brazen for them to just go no knock search warrants, dragging people out, putting smoke grenades into the homes where men, women, and children are living, dragging them out of their house, and then after detaining them, creating warrants after the fact. I mean, that's just absolutely illegal and absolutely fascist.
It is. That, ladies and gentlemen, we've just had our crystal knocked. The night of broken glass.
Yeah,
This this is where they try to see. The thing is, they're trying to start a race war, is what they're trying to do. They're trying to start a race war or a culture
think
war
so,
or
really?
whatever. They're trying to start a war between the majority and all of the minorities. You know why? Because that's the last resort they have to stop all of us common poor folks from rising up and guillotining all the rich. This is literally just one giant smokescreen to try and protect the fucking rich. That's all it's about.
Well, the thing about it is the way they're going about it is pretty poor. They may be starting a civil war, but it's not going to be against the races. It's going to be against the classes, like you suggested.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
wealthy versus the middle class and the poor folks. People are really starting to feel a hatred toward wealthy people, and I'm sure not
Yeah.
all wealthy people are deserving of that, but that's where the problem is. That's where the war is, and they're trying to distract people. Oh, those Mexican people, or oh, whatever. It's not working. It's just not working.
No, it's not. And if anything, it's only going to make it worse for the wealthy people once
Yeah,
once it gets to that point, because people are going to realize you were responsible for everything this whole time, and a ton of people got hurt from the fact that you were trying to cover up how badly you were fucking us over. All
yeah,
right, Iron Maiden for you then. You remember when I was on the podcast before, and I mentioned that thing from the video game I played? Once again, nerd, the Springlock suit, that
yeah,
that mascot suit thing that you can wind the parts out of, climb inside of it. But if you break the spring locks, it turns into a human pincushion.
yeah,
um they'll probably invent some shit like that for these people at that point.
yeah. No doubt, no doubt. It's um, when we talk about eating the rich, which is a quote that came from the French Revolution. Uh, Not literally, but it basically says when people have nothing more to eat, they will eat the rich. And what that means is when they've taken all they can from the middle class and the poorer class, they'll come after them, as Will would say, with pitchforks and torches. And in the
It's
protest,
getting
and
there.
it's getting there. We're getting close. They're peaceable at this point, but they won't be peaceable forever if they continue to do these egregious things. We know that they're starting to get a little scared when little things happen. Like you heard of this story about Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin plane or a rocket that went up
Yeah,
into
I
space for
heard
about
that. Yeah,
11 minutes. You got
fucking
Gail
Katy Perry
King
was on it.
and Katy Perry. These people came down and literally thought they'd be heroes. They're now some of the most hated people on earth because they're acting like they're special and doing stuff for women. They pay $600,000 to go up on a remote controlled fucking rocket. They're thinking they're astronauts and they want people to embrace them because they're such heroes. People hate those motherfuckers because there's people suffering down here and they're wasting $600,000 on an 11-minute trip. I think the wealthy are starting to take notice of how we feel about them.
Yeah, exactly. And my response to those people is, so you're telling me you want to be clapped for going up in what's essentially a huge, shitty remote control airplane to the edge of space?
Yeah.
Cure cancer, solve world hunger, fix the global housing crisis, end all wars forever. Do something. I'll clap my fucking hands. Like Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, people.
It's amazing how wealthy people are so oblivious. They will say things and they just so totally out of touch. They so out of touch that they don't realize they're out of touch. And they say the stupidest things, like with RFK Jr. suggesting that all autistic people can't work and can't use the rest facilities like anybody else. I mean, it's just absolutely oblivious what these people are, and they're exposing themselves for how ridiculous they are. I saw Donald Trump being talked about uh, Garcia, and this is what he said. Somebody asked him a question about it. He says, "Well, I don't know. You'd have to talk to the DOJ or such and such a person." You mean to tell me the president of the United States doesn't know anything about the biggest news story that's going on today that could affect him and affect the country, affect the courts? He doesn't know anything about this. Well, of course he knows something about it. He's just too afraid to speak out. Maybe he's afraid that people might get mad at him. Too late, motherfucker. They already hate you because of what you've done. Um, but these wealthy people will say things. It goes back to like George Bush. You probably don't remember this.
No,
George Bush.
I do a little bit. I was 4 when his term was up, so I remember a
No,
little teeny bit.
I'm talking about H.W. Bush.
Oh, that Bush. Okay.
Yeah, I think George H.W. I think it was Bush. Maybe it was somebody else. But they were in a grocery store, and it was just the beginning of using the scan and check. That was a big thing. You never had
Yeah.
it before, but you just go up and the cashier would check you out. But the scan and check, and I think it was George H.W. Bush was just amazed. I cannot believe we've got something like this. They have no clue what's going on with regular folks. And that holds true, if not even truer today. Somebody like Katy Perry or Elon Musk, they don't know the struggles that people have. And for them, a struggle is bad press. They have no fucking idea.
Yeah, with Katy Perry less so because she's pretty vocally anti-MAGA. No points to you for doing that shit with Bezos's shitty space plane, but I don't look. Let me just rephrase what I just said. I don't think it's really fair to lump Katy Perry in with Elon Musk because there's a pretty fucking big difference between being a rather out of touch rich person and a fucking Nazi on ketamine. You know what I mean? Like you can't draw the parallel really. But
Yeah, no, no, I agree
I
with
get
you.
what you
It's
mean.
not fair to lump her in with MAGA, but she certainly is out of touch. And she certainly is. Somebody says basically all you did is go up into a space Uber to get a fucking selfie. And for all intents and purposes, that's true. It's not that she's aligned with MAGA. We know she's not aligned with MAGA, but she's just has no clue of the plight of some people in this country.
Yeah, exactly. And it is kind of sad because I did kind of like her music, and I liked that she was anti-MAGA. I really appreciated that. But oh well, everything can't be perfect. Um, Now, actually, I think you guys are in for a real treat right now because I think it's time for Jay's Canadian politics corner.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
Because, okay, first of all, I want to establish my connections to Canada because I do have some. For one thing, my great great grandfather Tom, who did fight in World War II, was from Canada. For one thing, um, I have cousins up there, not like very close cousins, but like they're definitely in kind of the ring, as it were. They live up there.
Right, right.
And then I have three friends from the IPC school in Denmark that I was at.
Okay.
Um, there's Mo, like literally that's her name, who is from Vancouver. She's kind of she's almost a hippie if you could think about that, but like more of like a younger like cool kid kind of hippie, like
Yeah,
very chill, very reasonable, very measured. Um, you have Josh, who's from Ontario and is a little bit more rough around the edges, a little bit more street smart. And then finally, you have Frederic, who is from Quebec and is French.
okay.
So I chatted with them about my plan of like going to Canada, going working for a company, maybe getting into podcasting stuff like that. Um, Mo looked at my plan as like, well, if you feel like this is the right plan for you, I'd say follow your dreams or kind of spiritual, follow your heart, kind of My Little Pony almost kind of stuff like that. Josh was flip. He was blunt. He said, "Do it." That was his only response was "Do it." And then Frederic said something that I can't remember, something like "Sure, whatever" or something like that. Anyway, point being, they're all behind my plans here, but Josh gave me some really really excellent advice of when I'm up there in university. He said, once you're up here, we do have a housing crisis of our own and such going on here, and people aren't really that happy with immigrants because of it. So
Okay.
my advice to you, if you're going to come up here and go to school here, volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. Do what Jimmy Carter did, basically. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, that's a really good idea because if you're working to help fix the problem that people are, not thrilled with immigrants over, that turns the whole narrative on its head.
Right, right. Well, I think my wife went to Mexico, and I've known some other people that went out of the country, and they were fearful that people in other countries would hate Americans, and I think it's pretty overwhelming that people don't hate Americans. They understand the problem. They understand it's Donald Trump. They don't understand how we elected him. I don't understand that, for fuck's sake. But I think they're they're welcoming to Americans to a certain extent, but you're still different, and you've got to be respectful, and you've got to be looking like you're trying to assimilate into their culture.
Yeah, well, I sure as hell don't want this fucking culture to be dragged around with me. It's whatever. Um, I did say it was Jay's, Canadian politics corner.
Yeah,
So I watched the debates for Canada's federal elections, or part of them anyway. Steve Boots actually was streaming them. He's a Canadian YouTuber who's into this sorts of thing, and it was Mark Carney. I think is Mark Carney, who's the leader of the Liberal Party.
right.
You have Pierre Poilievre, or as Josh affectionately called him, Pierre Polyester,
Yeah,
um, because, and I quote, he's itchy and flammable. So
yeah.
that was entertaining.
I like it.
Somebody on the TikTok lives, I think, has called him Little PP. I think was something that he did. There,
That seems appropriate too.
tons of people have endless names for this guy because he's a MAGA fuck and he's a rabble rouser, he's a troublemaker, whatever. But anyway, he was up there, and then there was Jagmeet Singh, who is the leader of the New Democratic Party, which is If we had a social democrat party, if Bernie Sanders got his own party, that's what the NDP would be in
Okay.
down here. And he was up there, and Pierre Polyev is trying to attack Mark Carney, use all the classic, WWE tactics, just scream really loud and talk over top of people. And Mark Carney handled him like a champ. When I say he destroyed Pierre Polyev in that debate, he dog walked his ass. It was a little
Wow.
sad, actually. He got him by the throat, just dragged him all over that debate room, just absolutely smashed him to bits. It reminded me of that Simpsons clip I quoted on the show with Eric a couple weeks back. Stop, he's already dead.
Well, Pierre Polyev, like you say, he's kind of a MAGA fuck. There was a time when we first started talking that you thought he might have a chance of winning. I'm hearing now that his chance of winning this kind of thing is probably slim.
Yeah. I mentioned previously that I think it was Polymarket or something like that had the liberals have a chance of forming government is 52%. This is a
Right.
majority government, by the way, because
Right.
the minority government was more like 23% and the majority was 52%. The odds for the Liberal Party of Canada forming a majority government where they don't need anyone else to join a coalition for them to govern is now up to 85%.
Wow.
85%. So sorry, little PP, but looks like looks like looks like the only thing smaller than your dick is your election chances.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that could be attributed to people in Canada watching what's going on here? The people who thought Pierre Polyev would be a good choice, and now they see what Donald Trump has done to the United States. Do you think that's gotten people away from Pierre Polyev based on what
I think
MAGA
that's
is doing down here?
I think that's part of it, but what I heard a lot more from people in the comments of these videos and these lives that I'm looking at is that couple things. One, a huge part of the support for Pierre Polyev was just people were sick and fucking tired of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
Why, I couldn't tell you. I think he was a fantastic prime minister. Um, that said, Josh's friend that he brought into IPC one day did call him, and I quote, a walking vagina. So who
I
knows
mean,
for
as if
that?
he's not tough enough. He's not tough enough.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
too pliable. Okay.
But the point is, if people were just really sick and tired of Justin Trudeau, they didn't like the carbon tax, which that was not popular with the people. That was the main thing Pierre Polyev was running on is, I'm not Justin Trudeau and I'm going to axe the tax. That's another thing he keeps doing is these verb the noun slogans that people are realizing, hey, wait a minute, something seems a little familiar about these. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's another thing is a lot of what's happening with the turnaround is people are taking a good hard look at Pierre Polyev. Canadians are taking a hard look at Pierre Polyev and going, wait, what the fuck? And they're realizing we don't like this motherfucker
Wow.
because looking at the polls of like likability for Mark Carney versus Pierre Polyev, it's not fucking close. Pierre
Yeah.
Polyev is in the ditch by like 20 points. Mark Carney has like 50 something percent support. Pierre Polyev has like 20 to 30. It's not even fucking close.
Well, when I've seen Mark Carney speak, and generally it's when he's responding to something Donald Trump has said or done. He's pretty strong. He's pretty smart. He doesn't back down. As far as a potential candidate for prime minister, he seems like the best choice from where I sit. I mean, I don't know that much about Canada
Yeah.
and I don't know much about the politics, but he seems like a solid guy.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And that's another thing cuz Mark Carney isn't just a strong leader and a good candidate. He's also savvy because one of the first
Yeah,
things that he did when they kicked out, well, they didn't kick out Justin Trudeau. He resigned, like I said before. One of the first things he did when he got in there was to kill the carbon tax for everyone except the big corporate polluters.
right.
And then little Peepee was left, essentially, in a boat without any oars because like where the fuck you gonna go? So that's that. Um, Another thing is Mark Carney is just he's a banker for one thing, and for another, he actually got Canada through the crash of 2008 when they were under the government with Stephen Harper, the prime
Right.
minister at the time, who was a conservative, unlike Justin Trudeau. So there's that too.
Well, what do you think the overall opinion the United States at this point. We know with the tariffs, it's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of people. Donald Trump is hoping to bring people to their knees. Doesn't seem to be working. He's claiming, oh, everybody's talking to me. They're kissing my ass. No, I'll bet nobody's talking to him because he's impossible to negotiate with because he changes his mind from day to day to day. What do you
Yeah,
think the attitude with Canada at this point? Are they holding strong and they're going to be tough with Donald Trump?
absolutely. I absolutely think they will, because Canadians don't play around. They might be polite, but they are not soft. They will absolutely kick you in the nuts if you force them into it.
I got you. I got you. Uh, well, that's good to hear. Because
That's a,
as Donald Trump would say, you got no cards. Well, I beg to differ. Donald Trump is running out of fucking cards at this point.
yeah. Here's another thing. A lot of the scientists that are getting cut from the CDC and the
Yeah.
universities and such, they're probably running to Manitoba because Wab Kinew, who is the premier of Manitoba. By the way, sorry if he has a funny sounding name for those of you who don't understand these things. Wab Kinew, his Wab is for short. He's got some long sort of indigenous sounding name because he's First Nations, which is what
Okay.
which is basically the Canadian equivalent of our Native American Indians.
I got you.
So
I got you.
he's the premier of Manitoba, and he recently put out this pretty enticing incentive to try and repatriate, as it were, scientists from these universities and all these federal programs to places in Manitoba in Canada. So that's probably where all the scientists are going.
Well, and that's what people are saying that this country is in for a brain drain, meaning
Yep.
our finest, our smartest, our best are going to leave the country because they just can't work here under these circumstances.
Yeah, or in the case of people like me, we don't feel fucking safe here. And for those of you
Yeah.
out there, for those of you out there are going, well, you're not going to have a good time with the Canadian healthcare system because people are waiting in lines for. Shut the fuck up. That's crap. It's a right wing talking point spit by big pharma and big medicine lobbyists to try and get you to give up your government funded healthcare. Miss me with
Yeah.
that bullshit. Another thing, well, you're going to be working for a smaller paycheck and there's going to be higher taxes and da, da, da. You guys don't get it. For one thing, I'm sure as fuck not safe here. And for another thing, the taxes might be higher, but that's because you're paying into the system. You're paying into the social safety net to keep everything going. You guys don't get it. And
Yeah, I don't understand Republicans' point of view. They say you go to Canada, taxes are going to be higher, but you get health care, you get dental care, you get all these protections. The problem with America and the rich people in America, they want us to pay taxes, but they don't want to give us anything. Now, I've been in business in my lifetime, and I've got a standard rule. If I invest in something, I expect a return. And as a middle class person paying taxes, I expect somebody to to give me something in return for what I'm paying for. But that's not what they want here. I'd be happy to pay higher taxes if I got free health care, if I got all these things. Uh, People who bitch about this aren't looking at the big picture. They aren't bright enough to understand what's going on. And I don't know that we'll ever be able to teach these idiots anything.
well, there's hope for maybe some of them yet. Like I said with the guy at Chuck Grassley's town hall.
Yeah.
Another thing that came up was I was actually asked by, I think it was Josh's friend who was in that same chat. He asked me, "So you're thinking of coming here, huh?" Or "So you're thinking of coming here, eh?" Because duh, it's Canada. But he has, okay. So if you're planning on living here, being a citizen here, I got a question for you. Where would you consider yourself on the political spectrum? And I thought about it. And I'm like, okay, well, if we're talking ideology strictly, I'd probably identify more closely with AOC and Bernie. Or if we're talking Canadian terms, the NDP. I would probably be an NDP
Right.
voter. And so he asked, okay, in that case, if it's like prime minister in our federal elections coming out, who are you voting for? And I'm like, immediately, I vote for Mark Carney. And so he goes, okay, so you're not an NDP supporter. You're a liberal. I'm like, no, 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 no. Oh fuck no. I I am a social democrat, I would say, but I'm a savvy social democrat. sure, if the time is ripe for me to vote for the people who share my same ideology, I'm gonna fucking do it. But if you're facing off against something like Little Pants PP polyester in the corner there, and Mark Carney is the favorite to win, because the NDP is at 9% support right now. They don't
Right.
got a chance in hell of doing anything with that. So obviously, I'm just going to support whoever has the best chance to keep the other guy out. That's what that's what really frustrates me about all of this. Is I will say this for once and for all. This is my final message. All those people out there, you know exactly who you are. I'm going to confront you with this. You motherfucking protest voters. You motherfucking progressives and leftists. You motherfucking accelerationists.
You
You
know, yeah. The thing is that people are like the spoiled kids. I want what I want now. I'm an NDP supporter or a progressive left supporter, so I'm only voting for them. But what you have to understand is if you do that and Donald Trump wins, you're never going to get there. If you voted for Kamala Harris, you'd have a better chance of getting there. It's going to take time to make that transition, to make that switch, but you got to be on the right motherfucking road to get it done. You don't put yourself in a protest position. I don't like Joe Biden. I don't like Kamala Harris because they're not progressive enough. So I won't vote or I'll vote for Donald Trump. That's just flat out stupid. You put us on a path now where you'll never get what you want. Just ask those people that were crying about Gaza and they said Joe was genocide Joe. How you feeling fucking now?
Yeah, like Will has said before. I'm fucking bitter. To those of you people who tanked Kamala over the fucking Gaza war, you're. I almost wonder if you people will refuse to vote if there's a dog whimpering on the other side of the world and someone isn't going out to give it a bone. Like
Right.
that's how fucking pathetic you are that you're suffering vicariously through someone else and trying to make noise about it. Fuck you. You've condemned everyone back home here to an awful situation all because you wanted maximum attention put on this one little problem, and you can scream genocide denier at me all you want. It ain't going to change the fact that you're enabling a fucking genocide right now. Just look at what RFK Jr. said, or the guy that got disappeared for wearing an autism tattoo. You fuckers did this. You did this.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to have to wear that for some time or hang it around your neck. When I look at, progressive people and why they should have voted for Kamala Harris, it reminds me, I was on a plane earlier today coming back from Georgia, and they always give you this direction. Okay, if, loss of cabin pressure, the oxygen mask comes down. And if you have a child, put on the oxygen mask on yourself first. Not a normal circumstance. People say, well, save the kid first. No, here's the problem. If you're passed out, you can't save anybody, especially that kid. And that's the same can be said for this country. If we vote for
It's not
Donald
even
Trump just because we're pouting, we can't help anybody.
yeah,
Nobody.
these people, it's not even putting the mask on the kid first. These are people who are trying to put the oxygen mask on their fucking teacup poodle. They're trying to put the mask on their fucking dog. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, people, like how fucking stupid can you be?
It's interesting. We don't know where the tariffs are with most of the world. He's put them on, he's pulled them back, and 2 months they're going to go back on. When he pulls them back and he gets shit, he then has to put them on again because he gets angry that somebody's calling him a pussy, and he is a pussy. But he's holding strong with China, and it's really interesting. His tactics aren't working. He's basically said, well, it's the ball's in their court. They got to call us up, and they ain't calling. They said, fuck you. We're going to fight this out and we're going to beat your ass. We may take some hits. We may have some problems, but we can't continue this way. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to push back. And Donald Trump is got to be losing his shit because goes against his whole strategy. I'm going to scare you. I'm going to threaten you, and you'll give up and give me what I want. But they're not doing it. That's the exact right thing to do with a bully. And a bully doesn't know what to do with that but retreat. But he's got a problem. When he retreats, then people make fun of him, then he doubles down again. This is what I mean about Donald Trump being in a death spiral because he doesn't know where to go. He's got nowhere to go in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't really know what to say from that other than buckle up because it's gonna get ugly. Um, with the back to the Canada thing really quick. A couple things. For one thing, this is why I want to go to Canada. Partly is what the stuff that RFK Jr. said. What else going on right now? People are asking me, why do you want to go to Canada? I'm like, this is why. Because you fuckers stabbed my entire crowd of people in the back and basically just told us, we don't give a fuck about you. We don't care. All we want is ours and fuck you, you can go fend for yourself. And so I said I said to as part of a chat group, like I'm moving to Canada, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm sorry, people. Once I get up to Canada, I'm in permanent residency, and then I get my citizenship card. I'm renouncing my U.S. citizenship. I ain't coming back here again because with by reelecting Donald Trump again, you have permanently ruined this country for me. I can't live here anymore. And somebody in the group said, "Well, why would you want to burn that bridge so soon?" I'm like, "Bitch, you everyone here burned that bridge already.
Yeah.
Like I didn't burn the bridge. You guys did that." And of course, my response to her going, well, why would you want to burn that bridge? Is I just stood up and I said, who did you vote for? And I'm pretty sure somebody had to carry me out of the room because I almost killed this girl because she said, "Oh, I didn't vote because if you vote, it means you support the system, and I don't want to support the system. The system doesn't work." And
So now by not voting, you made it work worse or
yeah,
less. Yeah, well, you're a young man, and I say this about young men, having been a young man and having raised a couple of young men. Um, there is a point in time, and you're kind of in that area. You're young, you're smart, you think you know a lot. I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't know a lot at the time. Sometimes young men have a higher count of testosterone than they do intellect. And I'm not saying that you do, but my point is that 4 years down the road, we might be in a totally different situation. Your whole family, your whole history is here in the United States. So maybe burning that bridge isn't the best idea because nothing lasts forever. Like I say, when I grew up in the 60s, we had a lot of problems. We had the Vietnam War, we had protests, we had riots, we had assassinations, we had all kinds of shit. And there were people back then that ran to Canada so they didn't have to go to Vietnam. But then they were given a pardon, and most of them came back. Not all of them, but always leave your options open. Don't cut it off just to because all you're doing is saying, "I'm going to show them. I'm going to renounce my citizenship." And I'll be honest with you, the government doesn't give a fuck. So you're not really accomplishing anything by doing that. You're just making yourself feel better.
well, it's a
If I can tell
practical.
you anything going forward, always keep all options open.
I mean, I guess that's fair. Part of it is a practical thing because I don't want to. If I'm not a U.S. citizen, they can't tax me. Like, what do I want to be taxed for? So Elon Musk can fucking steal it. Like, what do I want that for? But but yeah. Anyway, I talked about it. I talked about it before. Of why regarding the Canada thing. There was one more thing I forgot to include earlier of why um, Pierre Poilievre's numbers dropped to basically nothing.
Yeah.
Is he was recently caught on a number of people at his rallies were caught wearing hats and shirts that said, "Do you really believe the polls?" And by that I mean like the polls of Parliament voting things. And let me tell you, Canadians did not like that shit.
No.
They were not fucking happy about that because they know what that sounds like, and they went, "Oh no, motherfucker, no, we that ain't gonna work for us."
Yeah, Canadians have the benefit of seeing what's going on down here in the United States, and they know when they hear things like that, that's just the beginning, because that was just the beginning here. Um, I think a lot of people thought that when Donald Trump got elected and he was talking about the 2020 election hoax and all that stuff, a lot of people voted for Donald Trump stupidly and said, well, how bad can it get? Well, motherfucker, here we are. It got real bad, and it's going to get decidedly worse.
Yeah. And to all those people that are out protesting who voted for this, we might be siding with you now because we need everyone we can get. But after this is all over, we're gonna turn the spotlight on you, and we're gonna go now that the fire's out, we need to come to terms with who started it, and
You
that's
know,
you.
yeah, people have said that to me. They said, we've got to accept them in, we got to forgive them, and all that kind of stuff. And my attitude is this: you can you can let it go and not get in a war with these people. But what they did was so egregious and so damaging to this country and the future of this country, which means it was damaging to my kids and grandkids. Um, I can't accept you in because I can't trust you. I can't trust you to make the right decision, the best decision for this country to keep this country safe. You made a poor decision. And then you had the audacity to smirk in my face while it was going on, saying, "Oh, you're libtard. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Now, all this time later, you found out we were right, and now you want sympathy. I'm sorry, you're not going to get sympathy from me, because not only are you a victim of your own stupidity, but you're also a villain, because you're causing problems to people who are completely innocent that didn't vote for Donald Trump, and you don't care about them. When Donald Trump was going to do what he was going to do, you were cool with him going after people. It wasn't until he went after you that you started feeling bad for
Yeah.
yourself. So I'm sorry, I can't trust you.
And honestly, if I'm being honest, this is me getting a little bit sort of fiendishly mischievous towards the end here. When you get a Democratic president back, every single thing that comes out of the White House from there on out has to be all about owning the Trump tards, all about just
Right.
fucking owning the MAGA fucks. And by that I mean, maybe there might even be enough support for this. Day one, universal health care. Ooh, get fucked. Day
Yeah.
two, free college. Get banned. Day three, who knows? Loosened immigration policies, bringing back all the DEI stuff. Ooh, burned. Like the
I, w-
entire thing needs to just be about making MAGA fucks just fucking cry.
I would add one to that list, and I would make it number one. The number one thing we should do, that we should have done, is codify Roe v. Wade,
Oh
because
yeah,
there's a lot of women suffering mightily because of this, and some women dying. Codify Roe v. Wade. Healthcare, absolutely. Um, we should make colleges cheaper and easier to afford. And people will say, well, why do you want to give kids now a break? Well, when I was a kid, colleges cost decidedly less compared to what I was making. It's outrageous now. It's almost predatory. But over and
it is
above
predatory.
cutting people a break, I believe we are in a bit of a crisis in this country of stupid people. And we want to be
Yeah,
a country of
yeah.
smart people. So we should make sure as many people that want to go to college or trade schools can do it. There should be no reason why somebody goes broke because they're sick, or somebody goes broke because they're not educated and can't afford to be educated. Those two things are absolutely crucial in this country.
Yeah. I'm just gonna round this whole argument off basically with a statement of I don't even think we have plenty of stupid people. That is absolutely a crisis. But even more, we
Yeah,
just have people that aren't tuned in is the biggest problem because
that's true.
77 million people voted for Donald Trump in this past election. There's 340 million people in this country. That's not half. That's not even anywhere close to half. So the good news about a lot of the stuff that's going on is it's getting a lot of people to wake up and tune in for the first time, and they're getting involved, they're organizing, they're protesting, they're doing all this stuff. And at the end of the day, when it comes to 2026 and beyond, the Republicans are getting packed up. They're done. They're going to go the
Yeah.
way the Tories did in Britain when all this is said and done. Pierre Polyev too, because the rumors are if the election goes the way they're saying in Canada, where he not only loses but loses so bad that it's pretty clear that he lost it for them, he's going to
Yeah.
lose his leadership seat. He's going to go the
Yeah.
way Aaron O'Toole did back in what was it 2020 2022. Aaron O'Toole was the conservative leader before Pierre Polyev, and he got booted out because he couldn't win the elections he oversaw.
And it sounds like Chuck Schumer's headed down that road too. More and
Oh
more
fuck
people are
yes.
talking about getting him out of
Hopefully
there.
Nancy Pelosi too.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice. It would be nice that we got rid of the old guard and started out with the young people. As I've said before, people of your age, you're going ahead in the future. You have a future. 20, 30 years from now, you're going to be living in that. 20, 30, or 30 years from now, I'm going to be dead. I have no business dictating.
Okay.
Well, no, seriously, I'm 65. I'd be 95. Ain't no way I'm living to 95. Ain't no way I want to live to 95. You
I'm
know,
if I'm being honest with you, Mike, I'm sorry to maybe have to go here. I think you may honestly live forever simply because the Grim Reaper is going to be too fucking scared to come and come and collect you because you'll kick his ass.
well, I've said this before to my son. I said, I'm a little concerned that when my granddaughter's 40 and my grandson to be is 35, uh, that these thousands of videos that I've done are going to crop up and go, that's fucking grandpa. He was crazy.
Well, I mean, it can't be as bad as one poor kid who found out that his who got bullied like crazy in high school because it was found out that his mom had an OnlyFans. So you're definitely in a better position than that poor guy was.
Well, I can promise my grandkids this: I don't have an OnlyFans, and even if I did, there'd be no point. I wouldn't be making any money. So, well, but I mean, there's a lot of people
Why
who
did
are
I
my
open that
age.
Pandora's box? Why did I
I
do
don't
that?
know. I don't. You should know better. You should know better. But there are so many people that are on social media that say and do things. I don't think they realize. Presidents always talk about a legacy. What they're remembered for and what they've done. There's going to be a lot of people with legacies they don't like because it's not
Oh
going
yeah,
to
you
wear
know it.
well, especially the Trump-fucks.
Absolutely, absolutely. One more thing. I mentioned this earlier in the video. I think before the recording started as well. Mike, how the fuck can I get in on those TikTok lives? Because I'm bursting to get in on one of those things and say hi to everybody, and I can never figure out how.
All right, next time I email or next time I do a live, maybe Friday night. I don't know. Maybe Friday night, tomorrow night, after people hearing this on, well, what is it? No, you're listening to this Thursday that I came home, so you're listening to this on Friday. So tonight I will probably do a live. I've been doing it like Tuesday and Friday nights. It's all depending on, with TJ and Rebecca. They are the moderators, well, some of the moderators. And I can't do a TikTok live without moderators. Otherwise, it would be absolutely a shit show.
You
But
want to
presumably about 9:30 Central, I'll do a live. Then go on TikTok, find my page. Just search me, Rational Boomer. Then the upper right hand corner, there'll be a circle and it'll say live on it if I'm live. Then you hit live and you'll be
okay.
brought into the live. Now, what's your handle on TikTok?
It's Jay of the Canadian Path because I couldn't figure out how to
Okay.
change it here.
Okay. Well, I'll recognize that. So what you do once you're in the live, there's somehow you can request to be on. And then when I see that of the people who want to be on, I'll just punch you up and you can talk away, assuming
Yeah.
Will's sleeping.
If you need an extra moderator, I'm happy to do that because I kind of do that anyway on the lives and such. I go around low key, kind of picking fights with MAGA fucks and then baiting them into saying something that can get them blocked. So
Absolutely, yeah. And I can make you a moderator. A moderator, many moderators as I
I'm
can
itching to
have is
ban some
good.
MAGA fucks.
Yeah, I know. I know you take a little joy, like TJ and Rebecca are almost insidious on how much they enjoy this. They love going after Trumplefucks, but they were getting a little cocky lately because they'll say, "Oh yeah, why don't you come up here and talk to us?" They've egged on a couple Trumplefucks and coming up, and I'm happy to do it. Some days I
What was the
just
last one?
need to get it
Jason?
off my chest.
Wasn't Jason
Uh,
one that
yeah,
was
I think
on?
he was
He
one.
tried to come on
Yeah.
there and then he got shut down.
Yeah. Well, you got me, you got Will, you got Eric, you got TJ, you got other people. It's not going to bode well for you if you come. I mean, it's one thing with me. I think I can handle you alone, but when you've got all these other people, it's not going to go well for you. I can't believe they're stupid enough to want to come on, but
Yeah, no,
maybe we'll
absolutely.
do that once in a while.
I actually have to end. Well, excuse me. I have to say one last thing for my academic counselor or helper, whatever, who's been helping me through these past couple weeks. My education advisor, who is who is half Canadian, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Um, Beth, I know you're watching this. I know you love the podcast. I know I promised I would be on the show last night. Sorry I missed it. Here I am. Hi. I know you watch the podcast, so that's a quick hello to Beth.
Beth, what up, girl? I can say that because I know she's younger than me. Everybody's younger than me. But well, I
That's true.
appreciate you watching, Beth, and your student, albeit a little goofy, pretty smart guy. So you've
Yeah.
done well in teaching him. Well, Jay, I'm going to wrap things up because it's getting late.
Elbows up.
Playing most of the day, and I'm tired as a motherfucker right now. But
Makes sense.
I I appreciate you coming on. Again, you're more than welcome anytime you want to come on. Just email me. I happen to be out of town when you emailed me, and we'd set something up. And being a man of a certain age, I forget shit.
Yeah,
So just
that makes
remember,
sense.
if we set something off up in the distant future, like 2 days, say, Mike, remember, because
Oh,
I will forget shit. And then I
Earth to
remembered
Mike.
we normally have Old Soul on Wednesdays for Thursday. So I called her up, and she really wasn't in a position to come on because she just flew in to wherever she is to do the protest. She was tired too. She was normally she's out west like you are. So if I call her at 9, it's 7 out there. But she was at the same time us. And then I'm in this pool house recording it. The Wi-Fi sucks. It shuts down. It's just fucking mess. So it's probably good we didn't have hook up yesterday, but we did today. That's good news. But anytime you want to come
Yeah.
on, just let me know. Just
Let's
let me know.
yeah, let's try and do a show with Trevor next time to have the two autistics in the we'll be autistics against Elon. How about that?
We'll have a race to the bathroom. See who can actually get there first, and then call it the RFK Jr. Toilet Award.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Well,
If my if
jeez.
my wife if my wife heard me say that, she'd go, "You can't fucking say that." I said, "First of all, I can say it because it's my fucking show. Second of all, I know Jay will take it in the spirit it's given."
Yeah. Yeah. Holy shit. I feel like after what all happened today and just the release of pressure getting all that out, I low key feel like my brain is bleeding. I gotta go and take a hot shower or something.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Those of you listening, thanks for taking the time. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.